On the morning Ethan Carter was supposed to become America's youngest billionaire CEO, the FBI arrested him live on national television. Reporters called him a fraud. His wife stood in the front row, crying. His best friend testified against him. His own brother refused to answer his calls. Within 24 hours, Ethan lost his company, his fortune, and his reputation. But there was one thing nobody knew. Ethan had secretly recorded every conversation for the past 8 months. And the people, celebrating his downfall, had no idea they had just walked into the biggest trap of their lives. The flashing blue and red lights reflected off the glass walls of Carter Global headquarters, turning one of Manhattan's most powerful buildings into the center of a national scandal. Hundreds of reporters packed the sidewalks. Television helicopters circled overhead. Employees stood frozen behind the lobby windows, whispering in disbelief. Every major American news network had interrupted its regular programming. No one wanted to miss what was about to happen. At exactly 8:30 a.m., the front doors opened. Ethan Carter stepped outside wearing a tailored navy blue suit that had cost more than most people earned in a month. He had built Carter Global from a struggling software startup into one of America's fastest-growing cybersecurity companies before turning 38. Today was supposed to be the greatest day of his life. Instead, FBI, don't move. 6 armed agents surrounded him before he could take another step. One agent grabbed his arm, another read him his rights. Camera flashes exploded like fireworks. Reporters screamed over one another. "Mr. Carter, did you steal billions from investors? Did you manipulate government contracts? Are you guilty?" Employees watched in horror as handcuffs locked around the wrists of the man they had admired for years. Across the street, a black luxury SUV slowly rolled to a stop. Inside sat Ethan's wife, Olivia Carter. Tears streamed down her face. At least, that's what every television camera believed, because the moment no one was looking. The corner of Olivia's mouth lifted into the smallest smile, barely noticeable, but it was there. She whispered just 4 words. "It's finally over, Ethan." 20 minutes later, every screen in America showed the exact same image, the billionaire CEO being pushed into an FBI vehicle. Stock markets reacted instantly. Carter Global lost 42% of its value before lunchtime. Investors panicked. Employees feared they had just lost everything. Social media exploded. People who had once praised Ethan now called him a criminal. Former business partners rushed to distance themselves. The world had already reached its verdict. Guilty. Only one person wasn't celebrating, an old janitor named Frank. He had worked in Ethan's building for 12 years. He quietly watched the news from a small television in the maintenance room. Then he looked at a tiny silver key hidden inside his wallet. His hands trembled. "God help them," he whispered. They have no idea what Ethan prepared. Meanwhile, inside FBI headquarters, Special Agent Rebecca Collins entered the interrogation room carrying a thick folder. She had spent 9 months investigating Ethan Carter. The evidence looked overwhelming. Offshore accounts, encrypted transfers, corporate fraud, bribery. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Yet something bothered her. When she entered the room, Ethan wasn't panicking. He wasn't angry. He wasn't begging for a lawyer. Instead, he calmly stirred the coffee sitting in front of him. As if he had expected all of this, Rebecca placed the file on the table. "You've lost your company." No reaction. "Your accounts are frozen." Silence. "Your wife has agreed to cooperate." For the first time, Ethan smiled. Not a nervous smile, a confident one. Rebecca frowned. "Did you hear what I said?" "I did." "You don't seem surprised." "I'm not." Rebecca leaned forward. "Why?" Ethan looked directly into her eyes. Then he quietly asked, "Agent Collins, what time is it?" She glanced at her watch. 9:47. Ethan nodded slowly. "Good. What does that mean?" He leaned back in his chair. "It means they're exactly 13 minutes early." Rebecca stared at him. "What are you talking about?" Ethan didn't answer. Instead, He looked toward the security camera mounted in the corner of the room and smiled again at exactly 10 a.m. Something happened 300 miles away in Chicago. A secure vault inside one of America's oldest private banks automatically unlocked. No employee touched it, no manager approved it, no one entered a password. The vault simply opened, inside. A small black envelope slid onto a conveyor belt. Printed across the front were 8 words, "Open only if Ethan Carter is arrested." The bank manager turned pale. He immediately picked up the emergency phone. Within seconds, 5 executives gathered around the envelope. No one wanted to open it, because Ethan Carter had given them very strange instructions almost a year earlier. If I am ever arrested, wait exactly 30 minutes, then follow every instruction inside. No exceptions, no questions. The timer reached 0. The manager broke the seal. Inside, there was only a single sheet of paper. He unfolded it. Read the first line. And suddenly, the color drained from his face. One executive asked nervously, "What does it say?" The manager looked up. His voice barely worked. "It says, 'Everything you believe about my arrest is a lie.'" Silence filled the room. Then they read the second sentence, and one woman accidentally dropped her coffee onto the floor. Because the note ended with a shocking warning. "If you want to stop the real criminals, do exactly what I wrote on the next page before noon. Otherwise, 23 innocent people will die." The envelope contained no next page, only an empty folder. The room fell completely silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Someone had removed the most important page, and whoever had taken it had started a countdown no one even knew existed. The conference room inside Hamilton Private Bank had turned into a war room. 7 executives surrounded the open envelope. The first page lay on the polished oak table. Everyone had read the same terrifying sentence. "If you want to stop the real criminals, do exactly what I wrote on the next page before noon. Otherwise, 23 innocent people will die." But there was one impossible problem. The second page was gone. No one could explain it. No broken lock, no damaged envelope, no signs of tampering. It was as if the page had simply vanished. Bank President William Harris slammed his fist on the table. "Lock this building down." Within seconds, armed security officers sealed every entrance. Nobody was allowed to leave. Every employee surrendered their phones. Every hallway was searched. Nothing. The missing page had disappeared without a trace. At exactly 10:14 a.m., inside FBI headquarters, Special Agent Rebecca Collins stared at Ethan Carter. "You knew this was coming, didn't you?" Ethan smiled. "I knew someone would try." Rebecca crossed her arms. "You still think you're in control?" Ethan slowly shook his head. "No. They think they're in control." Rebecca frowned. "Who?" Ethan looked toward the window. "I'll tell you after someone makes their first mistake." Before Rebecca could respond, her phone rang. She answered. Her expression changed immediately. "What?" She listened carefully. "Are you serious?" She hung up. "The Chicago bank says your emergency envelope was opened." "I know." "How?" "You arrested me at exactly 8:34. It takes 90 minutes. It opened right on schedule." Rebecca's heartbeat quickened. "What's inside the missing page?" Ethan looked disappointed. "So, they found the envelope, but not the page." Rebecca's eyes widened. "You expected it to disappear? I expected someone to steal it." Across Manhattan, Olivia Carter sat inside the penthouse she had shared with Ethan for 9 years. News anchors called her the devastated wife. Flowers filled the apartment. Sympathy messages poured in. But the moment the cameras left, she walked into Ethan's private office. She locked the door, opened a hidden cabinet, and removed a black satellite phone. She dialed a number from memory. A man answered after one ring. "Is it done?" he asked. Olivia smiled. "They arrested him. And the envelope?" She hesitated. "It contained only one page." Silence. Then the man's calm voice suddenly turned cold. What? There wasn't a second page. You checked carefully? 3 times. The man stood from his chair. No. That's impossible. Olivia's confidence disappeared. What if he moved it? He didn't. Then someone betrayed us. Those 4 words changed everything, because Olivia realized something terrifying. She wasn't the only person trying to destroy Ethan. Someone else, someone neither of them knew, was playing an entirely different game. Meanwhile, 40 miles outside New York, an old storage warehouse stood abandoned. At least, that's what everyone believed, hidden beneath the concrete floor. A secret operations room came alive. Dozens of computer screens switched on automatically. Digital maps covered the walls. Live camera feeds from across New York appeared one by one. A timer counted down. 1:42, 11, 1:42, 10, 1:42, 9. Then a mechanical voice echoed through the room. Phase 1 completed. Phase 2 initiated. No human answered. The room operated by itself. At 10:42 a.m., Frank, the elderly janitor, entered Carter Global carrying his cleaning cart. No one noticed him. Everyone was too busy panicking. Security had become chaotic after Ethan's arrest. Frank quietly entered the CEO's office. He locked the door, walked toward an ordinary bookshelf, pulled out a dusty novel. Nothing happened. Then he pulled another. A soft click echoed through the room. The bookshelf slowly slid sideways. Behind it, a steel vault door appeared. Frank whispered, "You always plan too far ahead, son." He entered a 6-digit code. The vault opened. Inside, instead of money, there were hundreds of hard drives, each labeled with names: government officials, corporate CEOs, judges, lawyers, politicians, and one drive labeled Olivia. Frank reached for it before his fingers touched the drive. A red light flashed. An alarm he had never seen before activated. Then a pre-recorded message filled the room. It was Ethan's voice. "If you're hearing this, I'm sorry. It means I was right." Frank froze. "The vault has already been compromised. Do not take the drives. Someone is watching." Frank slowly looked around the room. His blood turned cold, hidden inside a smoke detector. A tiny camera stared directly at him. He had just been recorded elsewhere. A black SUV parked across the street. Inside, a man wearing dark sunglasses lowered a pair of binoculars. He smiled. Into his radio he whispered, "We found the old man. Should we eliminate him?" A woman's voice answered calmly, "No. Follow him. He'll lead us to the real evidence." The SUV quietly started its engine. Frank had no idea that from the moment he left the building, someone was following his every move. Back inside FBI headquarters, Rebecca received another call. This time it came from Washington. The voice on the other end spoke only one sentence: "Release Ethan Carter immediately." Rebecca blinked. "What?" "You heard me. The order comes directly from above. But we have enough evidence to—" The caller interrupted her. "No. You have evidence someone wanted you to find." The line went dead. Rebecca slowly turned toward the interrogation room. Her heart pounded. She rushed inside. The chair was empty. The handcuffs lay open on the table. The security camera had gone black, and written on the fogged interrogation room window, as if someone had traced it with a finger, were 6 chilling words: "The game has finally begun." Outside the building, every road leading away from FBI headquarters was already blocked. But Ethan Carter had disappeared without a single witness seeing him leave. And somewhere in New York, someone smiled, because Ethan escaping wasn't part of the plan. It was the plan. Rain hammered the streets of Manhattan. Every police scanner in New York repeated the same message: "Be on the lookout for Ethan Carter. Consider him highly intelligent and extremely dangerous." Within minutes, helicopters filled the sky. Roadblocks appeared on every major bridge. Airports were locked down. Private jets were grounded. The media went into a frenzy. America's most wanted billionaire has escaped FBI custody. Social media exploded. Millions believed Ethan was running for his life, but they were all chasing a ghost because Ethan Carter had never escaped. At FBI headquarters, Special Agent Rebecca Collins refused to believe what she was seeing. The interrogation room had no broken windows, no damaged doors, no secret tunnel. The hallway cameras had captured no one entering or leaving, yet Ethan had vanished. Rebecca replayed the security footage, minute by minute, frame by frame. Then, something impossible happened. At exactly 10:58:12, every camera in the building froze for 4.7 seconds. When the video resumed, Ethan was gone. Not a single alarm had been triggered. Rebecca whispered. Someone inside the FBI helped him. Her assistant shook his head. No, that's impossible. Rebecca stared at the frozen frame. No, what's impossible is making an entire federal building blind for exactly 4.7 seconds. This wasn't luck. It was planned. Across the city, Olivia Carter watched the breaking news from her penthouse. When she heard Ethan had escaped, the wine glass slipped from her hand. It shattered across the marble floor. No. She immediately grabbed the satellite phone. The same mysterious man answered. You saw the news? She asked. A long silence followed. Then the man spoke. This changes everything. You told me he would never leave that building. He wasn't supposed to. Olivia's breathing became heavier. What do we do now? The man answered with chilling calm. We find him. Before he finds us. 40 miles away. Frank drove an old pickup truck through an abandoned industrial district. He checked his rearview mirror. Nothing, or so he thought. Hidden 3 cars behind him. The black SUV remained just out of sight. Inside, the woman leading the operation smiled. He's careful, but not careful enough. She pressed a button. A tiny GPS signal appeared on her tablet. One of her men frowned. We never planted a tracker. She smiled again. We didn't have to. He unknowingly picked one up inside Ethan's office. The hunt had become easier than anyone imagined. Meanwhile, deep beneath an abandoned subway station, a steel elevator slowly descended, 40 feet, 60 feet, 80 feet underground. The doors opened. A hidden command center stretched beneath the city. Walls of glowing monitors displayed live feeds from banks, government offices, corporate headquarters, even FBI surveillance cameras. A hooded figure walked through the room. Every employee immediately stood. Nobody spoke. Nobody even looked directly at the figure. The person stopped in front of the largest screen. It displayed one image, Ethan Carter's smiling face. The hooded figure quietly said, "Activate protocol, Raven." One technician hesitated. "Sir." "That protocol has never been used." The answer came instantly. "Neither has an opponent like Ethan." Within seconds, every screen changed. A list appeared, 23 names, each one marked with a countdown timer. 11:43, 2, 11:42, 2, 11:41. One technician whispered, "Are these the 23 innocent people?" The hooded figure didn't answer. Instead, the figure smiled beneath the hood. At exactly 12:07 p.m., Special Agent Rebecca Collins received an anonymous package. No return address, no fingerprints. Inside was a single flash drive. A handwritten note was attached. It read, "You arrested the wrong man." Rebecca immediately inserted the drive into a secure computer. A video began playing. The timestamp showed 8 months earlier. Ethan Carter sat alone inside his office, looking directly into the camera. If you're watching this, it means my plan failed. Or, I've already been arrested. Rebecca's heart skipped a beat. Ethan continued, for the next few minutes. Forget everything you've been told. My wife didn't betray me first. My best friend wasn't the mastermind. My company wasn't the real target. Rebecca leaned closer. So what was? Ethan looked straight into the camera, then he spoke 6 words that changed the entire investigation. Someone has been buying America. Rebecca froze. What does that even mean? The video continued. They don't steal banks. They own them. They don't control politicians, they create them. They don't destroy companies. They decide which companies survive. Rebecca's breathing became heavier. Who are they? Ethan slowly reached toward the camera, holding a photograph. The image wasn't perfectly clear, but Rebecca recognized one face immediately. It belonged to a powerful United States senator. Behind him stood 3 famous billionaires, and standing in the shadows was someone whose face had been deliberately scratched out. Only one thing remained visible, a silver ring with the image of a black raven. Ethan's final words echoed through the room. When you discover who wears that ring, run. The video ended. Silence filled the office. Rebecca slowly looked down. Her hands were shaking. Because just 1 hour earlier, she had shaken hands with a man wearing that exact same silver raven ring, and at that very moment, someone knocked softly on her office door. Agent Collins. The deputy director wants to see you. Rebecca looked at the closed door, then at the raven ring in the paused video. For the first time in her career, she wasn't sure whether opening that door would save her life or end it. Rebecca Collins didn't move. The knock on her office door came again. Agent Collins, the deputy director is waiting. She looked one last time at Ethan's video. Then, without thinking, she pulled the flash drive out of the computer and slipped it into her pocket. When she opened the door, 2 armed agents were waiting. Everything okay? One of them asked. Rebecca forced a smile. Yeah, just finishing paperwork. But something felt wrong. The 2 agents weren't looking at her. They were looking inside her office, as if they already knew what had been playing on her computer. 20 minutes later, Rebecca entered the deputy director's office. The blinds were closed, the lights were off. Only a single desk lamp illuminated the room. Deputy Director Richard Hayes stood beside the window. Without turning around, he asked, "How long have you known Ethan Carter?" Rebecca frowned. "I've never met him before this investigation." Hayes slowly turned. His face was expressionless. "But now you've started believing him." Rebecca stayed silent. Hayes walked toward her. Then, she noticed it. On his right hand, a silver ring, a black raven, exactly like the one in Ethan's video. Rebecca's heartbeat exploded. Hayes noticed where she was looking. He smiled. "Beautiful ring, isn't it?" Rebecca forced herself to stay calm. "It suits you." Hayes laughed. "I know." Then his smile disappeared. "Give me the flash drive." Rebecca froze. "I don't know what you're talking about." Hayes sighed. "You've always been one of our smartest agents. I was hoping you wouldn't make this difficult." Rebecca suddenly realized something terrifying. The flash drive hadn't been discovered by accident. They had been watching her. From the moment the package arrived, at that exact moment, across New York television networks interrupted their broadcasts once again. Breaking news authorities had found what appeared to be Ethan Carter's body. The wreckage of a black SUV burned beneath an old bridge. Inside, investigators discovered a completely burned corpse. The driver's wallet contained Ethan's identification. Within minutes, every news channel announced the same headline: "Ethan Carter is dead." The country erupted. Some celebrated. Some mourned. Stock prices began rising again. Investors smiled. Politicians praised the FBI. Olivia Carter watched the news in complete silence. Then, a single tear rolled down her cheek. Not because she was sad, because she knew something nobody else did. She whispered, "That's not you. You would never die that easily, 100 miles away." An elderly priest quietly entered a small countryside church. No reporters, no police, no cameras, only silence. He walked toward the altar. There sat a man wearing a black hoodie, his face hidden. The priest smiled warmly. I heard you died today. The man removed his hood. It was Ethan Carter, completely alive. The priest laughed softly. You've become the first man to attend his own funeral. Ethan looked exhausted. It was necessary. The priest handed him an old wooden box. I kept my promise. Ethan slowly opened it. Inside were dozens of photographs, old newspaper clippings, cassette tapes, and one faded photograph taken 27 years earlier. It showed 5 young men standing together. One of them had a black raven ring. Another was Ethan's father. Ethan stared at the photo, his eyes filled with anger. So it really began with my father. The priest nodded. No, Ethan. It began long before him. Meanwhile, Frank finally realized he was being followed. He deliberately made 3 unexpected turns. The black SUV copied everyone. Frank smiled. So, you finally found me. Instead of speeding away. He pulled into an abandoned gas station, got out of his truck, and waited. The SUV stopped 30 feet away. 4 armed men stepped out. Their leader, the same woman from before. She calmly removed her sunglasses. You saved us a lot of time. Frank chuckled. I've been buying you time. The woman's smile vanished. What? Frank looked at his old wristwatch. It's 3:15. She frowned. So? Frank grinned. You're exactly 10 seconds late. The woman instinctively turned around. Too late. A deafening explosion ripped through the abandoned gas station. The ground shook violently. Flames shot into the sky. The shockwave threw everyone backward. The black SUV flipped onto its side. Frank disappeared inside the smoke. When it cleared, he was gone. Only his broken cleaning cart remained. Inside the cart, the woman found a small digital recorder. She pressed play. Frank's recorded voice echoed through the burning station. If you're listening, you've already lost. The recording ended. Then another voice began. It wasn't Frank. It was Ethan. Every move you've made today, I predicted 8 months ago. You think you're hunting me? But since the day you framed me, I've been hunting you. The woman's confident expression disappeared for the first time, because Ethan hadn't been reacting. He had been leading them exactly where he wanted. That evening, at exactly 8 p.m., every television in America suddenly went black. Sports broadcasts stopped, movies disappeared, live news froze. For 3 shocking seconds, the entire country saw nothing. Then, a live video appeared. Millions of Americans stared at their screens. A man wearing a dark suit stood in front of the camera. His face slowly came into focus. Gasps echoed across living rooms, news studios, restaurants, airports. It was Ethan Carter, the man the world believed had died just hours earlier. He looked directly into the camera, calm, confident, alive. He smiled. Then said only one sentence, "If I'm dead." Who's speaking to you right now? The broadcast instantly cut to black. Across America, panic began. For 7 seconds, America stopped breathing. Every television, every airport screen, every sports bar, every shopping mall. Every news studio displayed the same image. Ethan Carter, alive, looking straight into the camera. Then, the signal disappeared. No explanation, no warning, just black screens, within minutes. The White House Situation Room was activated. Senior intelligence officials gathered around a massive display. The Director of National Intelligence slammed a folder onto the table. How did a dead man hijack every television network in America? No one answered, because no one had an answer. The FBI blamed the NSA. The NSA blamed Homeland Security. Homeland Security blamed the broadcasters. But every technical report reached the same conclusion. The signal didn't come from outside, it originated inside the National Broadcast Network itself, which meant only one thing. Someone with the highest level of access had helped Ethan, or someone even more powerful. Wanted the country to believe Ethan was alive. Meanwhile, Rebecca Collins drove through Manhattan without destination. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. She ignored every call. Her mind kept replaying Ethan's words. Someone has been buying America. Suddenly, a motorcycle appeared beside her car. The rider wore a black helmet. Without slowing down, he tossed a small envelope through Rebecca's open window, then vanished into traffic. Rebecca stopped beneath an overpass. She opened the envelope. Inside was only one photograph. It showed her, taken just 20 minutes earlier, standing outside FBI headquarters. Someone had been watching her. On the back of the photograph, 5 handwritten words. Trust no one. Midnight. Pier 17. No signature. Nothing else. Across the city. Olivia Carter entered a private penthouse overlooking Central Park. 3 men were already waiting. One was a billionaire banker. One was a famous senator. The third man kept his face hidden in darkness. The senator spoke first. Ethan wasn't supposed to appear. Olivia nodded. I know. The banker looked furious. We spent years building this operation. If he talks, we all go to prison. The shadowed man calmly poured himself a glass of whiskey, then finally spoke. His voice was soft, cold controlled. You still don't understand, Ethan. The room fell silent. He doesn't want prison. He wants something far worse, Olivia whispered. What? The man slowly smiled. He wants the truth. Elsewhere. Ethan sat alone inside the underground command center. Dozens of monitors displayed live camera feeds. Frank entered carrying an old metal briefcase. I found it. Ethan stood immediately. Are you sure? Frank placed the briefcase on the table. The locks clicked open. Inside was the missing second page, the very page stolen from the Chicago bank. Ethan stared at it for several seconds, then quietly laughed. They really believed they had destroyed my plan. Frank frowned. What does it say? Ethan unfolded the page. His smile disappeared. It's worse than I remembered. Frank looked confused. Worse? Ethan nodded. I wrote this page before I knew who the real enemy was. Frank looked at the document. What changed? Ethan looked directly at him. I was wrong. There aren't 23 innocent people. There are 24. Frank's face turned pale. Who's the 24th? Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he folded the paper, locked it back inside the briefcase, then quietly said, My daughter. Frank's eyes widened. You don't have a daughter. Ethan slowly looked toward one of the monitors. A little girl, around 8 years old, was leaving school holding her teacher's hand. I didn't know I did. Until 3 days ago. Frank could barely breathe. What are you saying? Ethan kept staring at the screen. Olivia was pregnant 9 years ago. She told me she lost the baby, Frank whispered. Oh my God. Ethan nodded. She lied. The child survived. And someone has been hiding her from me ever since. On another monitor, a black SUV slowly stopped outside the school. 2 men stepped out. One carried flowers, the other, a tranquilizer gun. Ethan immediately stood. They found her. He pressed a red button. Every monitor changed. The command center came alive. Operators rushed to their stations. A digital map zoomed toward Brooklyn. An alarm echoed through the underground facility. Frank looked at Ethan. What do we do? Ethan grabbed a handgun from a locked drawer. For 9 years, I thought I had lost everything. He checked the weapon, loaded the magazine, then looked at Frank. But today, I finally know what they're really afraid of, Frank asked quietly. What? Ethan answered without hesitation. A father who has nothing left to lose. At that exact moment, the little girl turned toward the school gate. She smiled, as if she recognized someone. The camera zoomed in. Standing across the street was Olivia Carter, holding a pink teddy bear. The little girl began running toward her, completely unaware that 2 assassins were closing in from behind. The little girl smiled the moment she saw Olivia. "Aunt Olivia!" She dropped her backpack and ran toward the woman holding the pink teddy bear. Across the street, two men in black jackets exchanged a quick glance. One whispered into his earpiece, "Target is moving." The other quietly pulled a suppressed pistol from beneath his coat. Nearly 200 yards away, Ethan watched everything through a live drone feed. His face turned pale. No. He grabbed the radio. "Team Alpha, move now." 3 black SUVs roared out of an underground parking garage. Their engines echoed through the streets of Brooklyn. Frank gripped the dashboard. "We're too far." Ethan's jaw tightened. "We don't need to be faster. We only need them to make one mistake." Outside the school, Olivia knelt and hugged the little girl. "Hi, sweetheart." The girl laughed. "I missed you." Olivia forced a smile. "I have a surprise for you." She handed over the teddy bear. The child hugged it tightly. Hidden inside the teddy bear, a tiny GPS tracker activated. Olivia looked over the girl's shoulder. She made brief eye contact with one of the assassins. Just 1 second. Barely noticeable. But it was enough. The signal had been given. At that exact moment, Rebecca Collins arrived at Pier 17. It was only 11:43 p.m. 17 minutes before midnight, the docks were almost empty. Fog rolled across the water. Old cargo containers stood like silent walls. Rebecca reached into her jacket. Her pistol was ready. Then, a voice came from the darkness. "You actually came." She turned instantly. A man stepped into the light. It wasn't Ethan. It was David Ross, Ethan's former business partner, the same man who had testified against him in court. Rebecca narrowed her eyes. "I thought you hated Ethan." David laughed bitterly. "I betrayed him, to keep him alive." Rebecca froze. "What?" David looked over his shoulder before continuing. "They murdered anyone who refused to join them. They threatened my wife, my son. I had only 2 choices: betray Ethan, or bury my own family." Rebecca stared at him. "Who are they?" David answered with 2 words. "The Raven Circle, back in Brooklyn." The assassins made their move. One grabbed the little girl, the other raised his weapon toward Olivia. Before he could fire, boom. A black SUV smashed into their vehicle at full speed. Metal twisted, glass exploded across the street, parents screamed, children ran in every direction. The first assassin hit the pavement, the second immediately opened fire. Bullets shattered parked cars. Ethan's security team returned fire. Chaos erupted. Inside the confusion, Olivia grabbed the little girl. "Run!" The child was crying. "I don't understand." "It's okay. Just keep running." Then, a single gunshot echoed. Olivia suddenly stopped. Her eyes widened. She looked down. Blood slowly spread across her white blouse. The little girl screamed, "Olivia!" Olivia collapsed onto one knee. Across the street, Ethan had just arrived, for the first time in 9 years. His eyes met the little girl's. Everything around him disappeared. The gunfire, the sirens, the screaming. Nothing mattered anymore. Only the frightened child staring back at him. She whispered through her tears, "Who are you?" Ethan couldn't answer. His throat closed. Tears filled his eyes. Then Olivia looked up at him. Blood covered her hands. With her remaining strength, she whispered, "I'm sorry. I lied. To protect her." Ethan knelt beside her. "Who?" Olivia coughed violently. "The Raven Circle. They wanted your bloodline. They believed your father stole something." Ethan leaned closer. "What did he steal?" Olivia's lips trembled. "The ledger." Before she could say another word, a red laser dot appeared on her forehead. Ethan saw it instantly. "Sniper!" He threw himself toward Olivia and the little girl. A deafening shot rang out. The bullet missed Olivia, because Ethan pushed her aside. Instead, it struck Ethan in the shoulder. He crashed onto the pavement. The little girl screamed louder than before. "Dad!" Time seemed to stop. Ethan looked at her in shock. She had never met him before, yet somehow she knew. The sniper fired a second shot, but before it could reach Ethan, another bullet came from a rooftop across the street. The sniper's rifle flew from his hands. A mysterious marksman had just saved Ethan's life. Everyone looked toward the rooftop. The mysterious shooter lowered the rifle, turned around, and disappeared into the darkness. Only one thing remained behind: a silver raven ring, lying on the edge of the roof. Someone from inside the Raven Circle had just betrayed the organization. The streets of Brooklyn echoed with sirens. Paramedics rushed toward Ethan. Blood soaked through his suit as they lifted him onto a stretcher. The little girl refused to let go of his hand. Tears streamed down her face. "Please don't die. You just found me." Ethan forced a weak smile. "I made you a promise. Before you were even born." The girl looked confused. "What promise?" Ethan gently squeezed her hand. "That no matter how long it took, I'd always find my way back to you." Before she could answer, he lost consciousness. At the same time, Olivia was rushed into another ambulance. Her pulse was fading. Rebecca Collins arrived seconds later. She flashed her FBI badge. "I need to question her." The doctor shook his head. "If you want answers, you have less than 5 minutes." Rebecca climbed into the ambulance. Olivia could barely open her eyes. Rebecca leaned close. "What is the ledger?" Olivia whispered only 3 words. "It isn't money." Rebecca frowned. "What is it?" Olivia struggled to breathe. "It's names. The names of everyone. Who built the Raven Circle." Rebecca's heart skipped a beat. "So Ethan's father really stole it?" Olivia slowly nodded. "He didn't steal it. He tried to expose them." A flat tone suddenly echoed through the ambulance. "Beep!" The heart monitor froze. The doctors immediately began CPR. Rebecca was pushed outside. 30 seconds later, the lead doctor lowered his head. Olivia Carter was dead. She had taken the biggest secret in America to her grave. 2 hours later, Ethan woke inside a secure military hospital. The room was heavily guarded. Rebecca stood beside the window. "Welcome back." Ethan looked around. "My daughter?" "Safe." "Frank?" "Safe." Ethan closed his eyes in relief. Rebecca placed an old leather notebook on the bed. "We found this hidden inside Olivia's teddy bear." Ethan's expression changed instantly. "No." Rebecca nodded. "It was sewn inside the stuffing." Ethan slowly reached for it. His hands trembled. The cover carried only one symbol, a black raven. Inside were hundreds of handwritten names: presidents, senators, judges, billionaires, media executives, military officers. Some names had dates beside them. Others had red X marks through them. Rebecca whispered, "This could destroy the country." Ethan quietly replied, "No, this could save it." Then, as he turned another page, something fell onto the bed. It wasn't paper, it was a small photograph. Rebecca picked it up. It showed 5 children standing together at a summer camp 25 years earlier. One child was Ethan. Another was David Ross. The third was Olivia. The fourth was someone whose face had been scratched away. Rebecca looked at the 5th child. Her blood ran cold. It was her. She looked at Ethan. "How is this possible?" Ethan looked just as shocked. "I've never seen this photo before." Rebecca turned it over. Written on the back, in faded blue ink, were 8 chilling words. "Only one of you will survive adulthood." Silence filled the room. Neither of them noticed. The tiny GPS chip hidden inside the notebook had just activated. 20 miles away, deep beneath an abandoned cathedral, the hooded leader of the Raven Circle stood before a massive digital screen. A red light began flashing. One of the technicians smiled. "We found the ledger." The hooded figure calmly asked, "Location?" "Military hospital." The room became silent. No one had ever attacked a military facility. The technician hesitated. "Sir, that's impossible." The hooded figure slowly removed one black glove. On the inside of the wrist was an old burn scar, exactly like the scar Ethan's father had in an old family photograph. The technician stared in disbelief. "You," the hooded figure interrupted him. "Prepare Phase 7. "What about the hospital?" The hooded figure smiled. "We're not attacking the hospital. We're inviting Ethan to leave it." Back inside the hospital, Rebecca's phone suddenly buzzed. An emergency alert appeared on every screen in the building. Warning: explosive devices detected. Immediate evacuation required. Doctors began shouting. Patients were rushed into hallways. Security officers searched every floor. Panic spread within seconds. Rebecca grabbed the ledger. "We have to move." Ethan struggled to stand despite his injured shoulder. As they reached the emergency exit, Frank suddenly appeared. He looked terrified. "Stop." Rebecca frowned. "What?" Frank pointed toward the parking lot outside. "Look carefully." Rebecca looked through the glass doors. Dozens of ambulances, fire trucks, and police vehicles had arrived. Everything looked normal. Then Ethan noticed it. Not a single vehicle had a government license plate. Every badge, every uniform, every ambulance was fake. Ethan's eyes widened. This isn't an evacuation. It's an ambush. At that exact moment, the fake paramedics turned toward the hospital entrance together. Every one of them reached beneath their jackets and pulled out assault rifles. The siege had begun. The first shot shattered the hospital's glass entrance. "Boom!" Patients screamed. Doctors threw themselves to the floor. Within seconds, the fake paramedics stormed inside. They weren't there to kill everyone. They had only one mission. "Recover the ledger. 3rd floor. Secure every exit. Nobody leaves alive." Their voices echoed through the hallways. Rebecca pulled Ethan behind a concrete pillar. "They've surrounded the building." Frank looked at the security monitors. "There are at least 40 of them." Ethan shook his head. "No. There are more." Frank frowned. "How do you know?" Ethan pointed toward the cameras. "Because those 40 men are only the ones they want us to see." Meanwhile, the little girl, whose name Ethan had finally learned was Lily, was being evacuated through the pediatric wing. A young nurse held her hand. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're getting you somewhere safe." Lily suddenly stopped walking. "No." The nurse looked confused. "My daddy is still inside." Before the nurse could answer, the lights went out. The entire hospital fell into darkness. Emergency lights switched on. Everything glowed blood red. A calm voice echoed through the speakers. "Good evening, Ethan." Every hallway froze. Doctors, patients, security guards. Everyone listened. The voice continued. "You've spent years looking for me, and now I'm finally looking at you." Ethan recognized the voice instantly. His face lost all color. Frank whispered, "You know him?" Ethan nodded slowly. "I've heard that voice before. 27 years ago." Flashback. Winter. Ethan was only 11 years old. Snow covered the Carter family estate in Colorado. He woke in the middle of the night after hearing gunshots. He quietly walked downstairs. His father stood in the library holding an old leather notebook. The ledger. Across the room, a tall man wearing a black overcoat smiled. His face remained hidden, but his voice was unforgettable. "Give me the ledger." Ethan's father refused. A single gunshot echoed. Young Ethan screamed. His father collapsed before losing consciousness. His father grabbed Ethan's hand. "Never trust." He coughed blood. The man with another shot interrupted him. The sentence was never finished. For 27 years, Ethan had never learned the final words. Until now. Back in the hospital, the mysterious voice laughed. "You still don't remember, do you, Ethan?" Rebecca stared at him. "Who is he?" Ethan whispered. The man who murdered my father. On the roof, a military helicopter appeared. Hospital staff looked up in relief. Finally, the army is here. The helicopter landed. 6 soldiers jumped out. Perfect uniforms, perfect equipment, perfect timing. Too perfect. Frank grabbed Rebecca's arm. "Don't open that door." Rebecca looked closely through the binoculars. Something was wrong. Every American flag patch was upside down. They're fake. Before anyone could react, the fake soldiers planted explosive charges on the rooftop doors. Boom! The entire top floor shook violently. Dust filled the stairwells. The Raven Circle was attacking from above and below, inside the command center beneath the abandoned subway. One technician looked terrified. "Sir, our strike teams have surrounded the hospital, but the ledger is moving." The hooded leader smiled. "Exactly." The technician blinked. "You wanted them to escape?" The leader nodded. "If Ethan dies today, the truth dies with him. But if he escapes, he'll lead us to something even more valuable." The technician hesitated. What could be more valuable than the ledger? The hooded figure slowly removed an old photograph from his pocket. It showed a young Ethan, his father, and a steel vault door. The hooded man whispered, "The Vault of 12, back inside the hospital." Rebecca, Ethan, Frank, and Lily reached the underground parking garage. Only one armored SUV remained. Frank smiled. "We still have a chance." Just as Ethan reached for the driver's door, a voice echoed from behind. "I wouldn't do that." Everyone turned. Standing 20 feet away was David Ross, Ethan's former best friend. He was pointing a gun directly at Ethan. Rebecca immediately raised her weapon. "David!" David ignored her. His eyes never left Ethan. "I'm sorry, but they have my family." Ethan looked at him calmly. "They've been dead for 6 months. David's face went white. "What? They lied to you?" "I confirmed it yesterday." David's hands began shaking. "No, they send me videos." Ethan slowly took a step forward. "Those videos were recorded months ago. They've been controlling you with ghosts." Tears filled David's eyes, his gun lowered. They promised." Ethan quietly interrupted him. "They promised everyone something, and then they took everything." David collapsed to his knees, crying. For the first time, he realized he had betrayed his best friend, for a family he had already lost. At that exact moment, a single sniper round echoed through the garage. Crack! David's eyes widened. A small red stain appeared on his chest. He looked down in disbelief, then back at Ethan. With his final breath, he whispered, "The leader isn't your enemy." Ethan leaned closer. "Who is he?" David smiled sadly. "No, he's your..." Before he could finish, he fell forward. Dead. The last word died with him. And somewhere, hidden behind a sniper scope, the hooded leader quietly said, "Some secrets must stay buried." David Ross's body lay motionless on the cold concrete for several seconds. No one spoke. Ethan slowly closed his best friend's eyes. "I forgive you." Rebecca looked at him in disbelief. "He betrayed you." Ethan stood up. "No. He was betrayed long before he betrayed me." Frank quietly picked up the gun that had slipped from David's hand. Something caught his attention. Hidden inside the grip was a folded piece of paper. He handed it to Ethan. "Look." Ethan unfolded it. It wasn't a letter. It was a map, an old map, yellow with age. Across the top were 3 handwritten words. The Vault of 12 in the bottom corner. Someone had written a date, July 24th, 1999. The exact night Ethan's father was murdered. Outside, the fake military unit suddenly retreated. Rebecca looked confused. "They're leaving?" Ethan shook his head. "No, they've already achieved their objective." "What objective?" "They wanted David dead, so he could never finish that sentence." Rebecca repeated his final words. The leader isn't your enemy. What was he trying to say? Ethan stared at the map. I think he was trying to warn me. 30 minutes later, the armored SUV sped north through heavy rain. Frank drove. Rebecca monitored police frequencies. Lily slept peacefully in the back seat, holding the pink teddy bear. For the first time in years, she looked safe. Ethan couldn't stop looking at her. 9 birthdays, 9 Christmas mornings, 9 years of bedtime stories. He had missed them all. Quietly, he whispered, I'm sorry. Lily opened one eye. You don't have to say sorry. Ethan smiled weakly. Why not? She answered with the innocence only a child possesses. Because you came back. Those 4 words broke him. He turned toward the window so no one would see the tears in his eyes. 3 hours later, the team arrived at an abandoned railway station deep in the Colorado mountains. According to David's map, the entrance to the Vault of 12 was somewhere beneath the station. Everything was silent. Too silent. Frank looked around. No footprints. No vehicles. Rebecca checked her pistol. So why does it feel like we're expected? Ethan didn't answer. He walked into the old station. Dust covered everything. Broken clocks, rotting wooden benches, rusted ticket machines. Then, he noticed something strange. One clock still worked. Its hands pointed to exactly 47, the same time his father had died. Ethan slowly turned the minute hand backward. Click. The floor trembled. Ancient gears echoed beneath the building. A section of the platform slowly slid open. Cold air rushed upward, hidden beneath the station. A spiral staircase descended into darkness. Frank whispered, Your father built this? Ethan shook his head. No. He inherited it. 100 feet underground. The staircase ended at a massive steel door. 12 circular locks covered its surface, each engraved with a different symbol. An eagle, a lion, a crown, a sword, a raven, and 7 others. Rebecca frowned. 12 locks. 12 founders. Ethan nodded. The original members of the Raven Circle. He reached into his pocket, removed the ledger, placed it against the center of the door. Nothing happened. Then Lily quietly walked forward. She looked at one symbol, a small tree. I've seen this before. Everyone looked at her. You have? She nodded. She pulled a silver necklace from beneath her shirt. Hanging from it was the exact same tree symbol. Ethan stared at the necklace. Where did you get that? Mommy gave it to me. Rebecca's eyes widened. Olivia knew, Frank whispered. She didn't just hide Lily. She protected the final key. Lily placed the necklace into the tree-shaped lock. A deep metallic sound echoed through the chamber. One lock unlocked, then another, then another. All 12 locks began turning by themselves. The enormous steel door slowly opened. A blinding golden light spilled into the tunnel. Inside, there was no gold, no diamonds, no money. Instead, rows of shelves stretched into the darkness. Thousands of files, thousands of videotapes, thousands of hard drives, every crime, every secret deal, every assassination, every act of corruption committed by the Raven Circle over nearly a century. Rebecca could barely speak. This could rewrite American history. Frank looked around. It's bigger than the ledger. Ethan nodded. The ledger only listed their names. This contains their sins. Then, a slow clap echoed through the vault. Everyone turned. A lone figure stepped out of the shadows. Black overcoat, black gloves, silver raven ring, the hooded leader. He removed his hood. Rebecca gasped. Frank stepped backward. Even Ethan stood frozen, because the face staring back at him was almost identical to his own. The man smiled. Hello, Ethan. It's been a long time. Ethan whispered, Who are you? The stranger looked at Lily, then back at Ethan, and calmly replied, "I'm not your enemy. I'm your." Before he could finish, the lights inside the vault suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the room. A gunshot echoed. Then another. Someone screamed. And when the emergency lights flickered back on, the hooded man had vanished. But on the floor, lying in a pool of blood, was Frank. Clutched tightly in his trembling hand was a torn photograph. Only 2 words remained visible. "Brother." The emergency lights flickered. Red, black, red again. Frank lay on the cold stone floor. Blood spread beneath him. Lily screamed, "Frank!" Ethan dropped to his knees beside the old man. "Stay with me." Frank's breathing was shallow. With trembling hands, he held out the torn photograph. Only 1 word remained visible. Brother Ethan stared at it. "My brother?" Frank nodded weakly. "You were never an only child." Silence filled the ancient vault. Rebecca couldn't believe what she had just heard. "What are you talking about?" Frank coughed violently. 27 years ago, the night your father was killed, your mother gave birth to twins." Ethan's world stopped. "Twins?" Frank closed his eyes for a moment. "The Raven Circle came for both of you. Your father knew they would. So he made the hardest decision of his life. He separated you. You were hidden. And your brother." Frank struggled to breathe. Was taken. Far above the vault, the mysterious hooded man stood on a cliff overlooking the railway station. Rain poured over his black coat. He slowly removed the silver raven ring. For years, it had symbolized loyalty to the Raven Circle. Now, he crushed it beneath his boot. A black SUV approached. 4 armed men stepped out. "Sir, the council wants Ethan dead." The man looked toward the mountains. "No. They've wanted him dead for 27 years. But I won't let them kill my brother." Back inside the vault, Rebecca searched through hundreds of old files. Every cabinet contained secrets, assassinations, election fraud, corporate sabotage, bribery, wars manipulated for profit. Then, she found a sealed envelope. Across the front were handwritten words. "Open only if both sons survive." Rebecca slowly opened it. Inside was a letter written by Ethan's father. Ethan unfolded the faded paper. His father's handwriting was unmistakable. "My sons, if you're reading this, then I failed to protect our family. The Raven Circle does not seek money. It seeks control. The ledger was never their greatest secret. Their greatest secret is the identity of the 12th founder. You already know him. You have trusted him. And when the truth is revealed, America itself will shake." The room fell silent. Rebecca whispered, "The 12th founder is still alive." Ethan nodded. "And he's hiding in plain sight." Suddenly, every monitor inside the vault switched on by themselves. One by one, 12 screens, then 20, then 50. A familiar face appeared. Deputy Director Richard Hayes, the man with the raven ring. He smiled into the camera. "Congratulations, Ethan. You finally reached the vault." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "You wanted me here." Hayes laughed. "Of course. The vault wasn't your destination. It was your prison." Rebecca immediately looked around. "The doors," Frank whispered. "They've been sealed." Heavy steel echoed through the chamber. The massive entrance slammed shut. Boom, dust fell from the ceiling. Every exit locked automatically. A mechanical voice announced, "Self-destruct sequence initiated." Lily clutched Ethan's hand. "Dad, are we going to die?" Ethan knelt beside her. "No. I lost 9 years. I'm not losing another day." On the largest screen, Hayes stood before a gathering of 12 masked figures. "The council has voted. Ethan Carter must die." One by one, the masked members raised their hands. 11 votes. Only one person remained seated. The final masked figure slowly stood. Then, to everyone's shock, he removed his mask. It was the hooded man, Ethan's identical twin brother. He looked directly into the camera. My vote is no. The room erupted into chaos. The other members shouted, guards rushed toward him, but before anyone could stop him, he pressed a red button hidden beneath the table. Across the vault. The countdown suddenly froze. 59. Then, it began counting backward. Rebecca stared in disbelief. He's reversing the destruction sequence. The twin looked into the camera one last time. His voice was calm. Run, Ethan. I'll hold them. The transmission cut to black. For the first time in 27 years, Ethan knew two things. His brother was alive, and the real war had only just begun. Washington, D.C. 3:17 a.m. Rain poured over the marble steps of the Capitol. A black limousine stopped without headlights. 12 masked figures stepped out one by one. None of them spoke. None of them looked at each other. They disappeared into an underground tunnel that officially didn't exist for nearly a century. This was where the Raven Circle had made decisions that changed America's history. Presidents had come and gone. Wars had begun. Fortunes had been created and destroyed by the people inside this room. Tonight, only 11 chairs were occupied. The 12th chair remained empty. The chairman slowly stood. The traitor has chosen blood over the circle. He will be eliminated, a woman asked quietly. And Ethan Carter? The chairman smiled. Ethan has already entered the final stage. He simply doesn't know it yet. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Colorado mountains, the vault doors slowly reopened. Rebecca couldn't believe her eyes. The countdown actually stopped. Frank, still weak from his wound, leaned against the wall. It wasn't stopped. It was overridden. Ethan looked toward the ceiling. My brother did this. Lily tugged gently on Ethan's sleeve. Dad, will I ever meet Uncle? Ethan smiled for the first time in days. I promise. Very soon. He didn't know. His promise would be tested within hours. As the team searched the vault, Rebecca opened another cabinet. Inside were dozens of VHS tapes, each labeled with a year. One tape had a red sticker. Play first. Frank found an old television. The tape began. Static filled the screen. Then a man appeared. It wasn't Ethan's father. It wasn't the hooded brother. It wasn't Hayes. It was a woman. She looked directly into the camera. My name is Eleanor Carter, Ethan gasped. My mother. He hadn't seen her face in 27 years. Tears filled his eyes. The recording continued. If you're watching this, then one of my sons has survived, Rebecca whispered. One of your sons? The woman smiled sadly. No, I prayed both would. She held up a family photograph. Ethan, his twin brother, their father, herself, a happy family. Before the Raven Circle destroyed everything, then her expression changed. If the circle still exists, it means one thing. I failed. She reached beneath the table and placed an old bronze key in front of the camera. This key opens the Founder Archive. It contains the only document the circle fears. Ethan leaned closer. What document? His mother answered. The true identity of the first founder. The tape suddenly distorted. The picture flickered violently. Then a man stepped into the frame behind Eleanor. His face couldn't be seen, only his voice. You shouldn't have recorded this. Eleanor stood. You'll never find my children. The man laughed. I don't need both. I only need one. A gunshot echoed. The camera crashed to the floor. The recording ended. Silence. Lily quietly hugged Ethan. I'm sorry. Ethan kissed her forehead. They thought they destroyed our family. He looked at Rebecca. They only delayed it. At that same moment, inside Raven Circle headquarters, the chairman received a secure call. Sir, The traitor escaped. The chairman calmly poured himself a glass of wine. And the children? The girl is alive. What about Ethan? Alive. The chairman smiled. Excellent. The messenger looked confused. You wanted them dead. The chairman shook his head. No. I wanted them together. He walked toward a giant wall map. A red light blinked over one location. New York Federal Archives. The bronze key. Only works if Ethan uses it himself. The messenger finally understood. We're using him. The chairman nodded. He's opening the last door for us. Back inside the vault. Frank examined the bronze key. Something felt strange. He weighed it in his hand. Then smiled. This isn't bronze. Rebecca frowned. What is it? Frank scratched the surface with his pocket knife. The outer coating peeled away. Underneath. Pure gold. But that wasn't what shocked him. Tiny numbers were engraved beneath the coating. Latitude. Longitude. Ethan immediately recognized them. No. Frank looked up. You know this place? Ethan nodded slowly. It's not the Federal Archives. Rebecca frowned. Then where? Ethan answered in a whisper. My childhood home. The place where my father was murdered. Before anyone could speak, every light inside the vault went out. Again. A deep mechanical voice echoed through the darkness. Unauthorized duplication detected. Rebecca looked around. What duplication? A laser beam scanned the bronze key. Then another. Then dozens more. The voice continued. Original key confirmed. A pause. Then, counterfeit key detected. Ethan's blood ran cold. What? Frank stared at the key in his hand. If this one is fake. Everyone slowly turned toward Lily. She looked frightened. Dad? She reached into the pocket of her pink teddy bear, pulled out another key. Identical, except this one carried Ethan's family crest. The real key had been with Lily, the entire time. And somewhere in the darkness, a man quietly whispered, exactly as your mother planned. Silence filled the vault. Every eye was fixed on the golden key in Lily's tiny hand. Ethan slowly knelt before her. Sweetheart, who gave you this? Lily looked down at the key. Mom. Rebecca frowned. Olivia? Lily shook her head. No, my real mom. The room went completely silent. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. What did you say? Lily swallowed nervously. The lady who raised me wasn't my real mommy. She told me that if anyone ever asked about this key, I should only give it to the man who wore Grandpa's watch. Lily pointed toward Ethan's wrist, the old silver watch, the same watch his father had given him as a child. Frank whispered, Eleanor. She planned everything. Ethan gently took the key, unlike the fake one. This key felt warm, almost alive. On its surface was a tiny inscription. Truth demands sacrifice. Rebecca stared at it. What does that mean? Frank answered quietly. It means no one leaves the truth unchanged. Miles away, inside the hidden headquarters of the Raven Circle. The chairman watched everything through a concealed camera inside the vault. He smiled. Ethan finally has the real key. One council member asked, should we move now? The chairman shook his head. No. Let him unlock the archive. Then, we erase everyone. Meanwhile, Ethan inserted the real key into a narrow slot hidden behind the largest bookshelf. Nothing happened. Then, the entire vault began shaking. Ancient gears echoed beneath the floor. A hidden chamber slowly rose from the ground. Inside stood a single glass case. No gold, no weapons, only one black leather journal. Its cover carried no title. Only a single raven embossed in silver. Rebecca carefully opened the case. The moment Ethan touched the journal, a hidden projector activated. Dust-filled light illuminated the stone wall. A recording appeared. This time, It wasn't his mother. It wasn't his father. It was a much younger Frank, 30 years younger. Rebecca stared at him. Frank, you knew about this? Frank closed his eyes. I prayed this day would never come. The recording began. Young Frank looked directly into the camera. If you're seeing this, then the circle has failed. He stepped aside. A second man entered the frame, Ethan's father. He looked tired, but determined. My sons, if you survived, it means Frank kept his promise. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. His father continued. The Raven Circle has spent a century hiding one lie. There never were 12 founders. Rebecca looked shocked. What? There were 13. Silence. The 13th founder opposed corruption when he refused to obey. The other 12 erased him from history. They stole his fortune. They stole his name. And they murdered everyone who remained loyal to him. Ethan whispered. Who was he? His father looked straight into the camera. My grandfather. Your great-grandfather. The Carter family didn't build its fortune through business. It was stolen from us. Before anyone could react, a loud explosion shook the chamber. Boom! The ceiling cracked. Dust rained down. Rebecca grabbed her pistol. They found us. Another explosion, closer this time. Frank looked at the security monitors. His face turned pale. They're not sending assassins. They're sending everyone. Hundreds of black SUVs surrounded the railway station. Military helicopters circled overhead. Armed drones filled the sky. The Raven Circle wasn't hiding anymore. They were declaring war. The chairman stepped out of his limousine. For the first time, his face was visible. He was an elderly man in his 70s. Calm, elegant, holding a silver cane. He looked toward the mountains and smiled. Bring me Ethan Carter. Alive. One guard asked. And the child? The chairman's expression turned cold. She carries the Carter bloodline. Do not let her escape. Back inside the vault, a hidden alarm suddenly activated. A mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. Founder archive compromised. Emergency protocol initiated. The black journal slid back into the floor. Steel walls began closing around the chamber. Rebecca shouted, It's sealing itself. Ethan grabbed the journal just before it disappeared. As he pulled it free, a folded letter slipped out. Across the front, in his father's handwriting, only 6 words were written. Never trust your own reflection. Ethan froze. Rebecca looked at him. What does that mean? Then, everything suddenly made sense. He remembered the identical face, the mysterious twin brother, the warning, the strange behavior, the perfect timing. Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. No, Frank looked at him. What is it? Ethan slowly turned toward the tunnel leading out of the vault. The man we believe is my brother may not be my brother at all. At that exact moment, footsteps echoed in the darkness. A lone figure emerged. Black coat, no hood, no mask. The man smiled. You're finally asking the right question. He looked exactly like Ethan. Then he calmly said, My name isn't Daniel Carter. I've never been your brother. The entire vault fell silent. The underground vault fell silent. Even the explosions outside seemed to disappear. Ethan stared at the man standing 20 feet away. Same height, same eyes, same jawline, same voice. It was like looking into a mirror. Only one difference. The stranger smiled. Ethan didn't. Rebecca slowly raised her pistol. Don't move. The man chuckled. If you wanted me dead, I would have been dead years ago. Frank looked confused. If you're not Ethan's brother, then who are you? The stranger reached into his coat. Rebecca tightened her grip. Hands where I can see them, instead of a weapon. He removed an old leather wallet. Inside was an FBI badge. The name read, Jonathan Reed. Rebecca's face turned white. No. Agent Reed died 20 years ago. The man smiled sadly. That's what everyone believes. Outside, more than 200 armed mercenaries surrounded the mountain. Snipers took positions. Attack drones circled overhead. The chairman stepped forward. He pressed a button on his cane. Hidden missile launchers emerged from armored trucks. One commander asked, "Sir, what if the vault collapses?" The chairman calmly answered, "Then history dies with it." Back inside, Jonathan looked directly at Ethan. "I met your father the night before he was murdered." Ethan stepped closer. "You knew him. I owed him my life. Then why pretend to be my brother?" Jonathan's smile disappeared. "Because your real brother wanted me to." Silence. Rebecca whispered, "Your brother is alive?" Jonathan nodded. "He has been inside the Raven Circle since he was 11 years old." Frank grabbed a nearby table to steady himself. They raised him. Jonathan looked at Frank. "No. They turned him into something worse." Ethan's fists clenched. "Where is he?" Jonathan answered quietly. 300 feet above us." Everyone looked toward the ceiling. The chairman didn't come alone. "He brought your brother." Lily hid behind Ethan. "Dad, I'm scared." Ethan knelt and hugged her. "I know, but I won't let anyone hurt you." Jonathan watched the moment in silence, then whispered, "You're already a better father than they expected." Suddenly, Rebecca's radio crackled. "We've lost every exit. They're coming underground." Seconds later, the first explosion rocked the tunnel. Dust poured from the ceiling. Concrete cracked. Frank looked at the map. "They'll reach us in less than 4 minutes." Jonathan pointed toward a narrow passage behind the archive. "There's another way." Rebecca frowned. "How do you know?" Jonathan answered. "Because I built it." The group hurried through the narrow tunnel. It twisted deep beneath the mountain. Old electrical cables hung from the ceiling. Rust covered the walls. Then, they reached a giant circular steel door. Unlike the vault, this door had no lock, only a handprint scanner. Jonathan placed his hand on it. Nothing happened. A mechanical voice echoed. "DNA verification required." Jonathan sighed. "I was afraid of this." Ethan stepped forward. "What?" Jonathan looked him in the eyes. "It wasn't built for me. It was built for a Carter." Ethan placed his hand on the scanner. A green light flashed. "Access granted." The massive door slowly opened. Inside was an underground train, perfectly preserved. Its engines silently came to life. Frank whispered, "Your grandfather planned an escape route." Jonathan shook his head. "No. He planned a war. Before anyone could board." A single clap echoed through the tunnel. Slow. Confident. Everyone turned. The chairman stood at the entrance. Dozens of armed soldiers surrounded him. Beside him stood a man wearing a black tactical uniform. His face remained hidden behind a metal mask. The chairman smiled. "Ethan, I've been waiting 27 years for this meeting." Ethan stepped forward. "You murdered my father." The chairman laughed. "No. I merely gave the order." Then he looked toward the masked man. "Remove your mask." The man obeyed. The mask hit the floor. Lily gasped. Rebecca couldn't breathe. Frank closed his eyes. The face beneath the mask was truly identical to Ethan's. Not similar, not close, identical. The chairman placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Meet your brother, Lucas Carter." Lucas looked at Ethan without emotion. No anger, no happiness, no recognition, only emptiness. Then he spoke, in a cold, emotionless voice. "My orders are simple. Bring you alive. Kill everyone else." He slowly raised his rifle and aimed directly at Rebecca. Lucas Carter's finger tightened around the trigger. Rebecca didn't blink. Neither did Ethan. The underground tunnel was so quiet. Everyone could hear the safety click off. The chairman smiled. "Go ahead. Prove where your loyalty belongs." Lucas kept the rifle aimed at Rebecca's heart. Lily buried her face against Ethan's arm. Dad, please make him stop. Ethan slowly stepped in front of Rebecca. If you want to shoot, shoot me. Lucas looked into Ethan's eyes for the first time. There was no hatred, only confusion, as if a forgotten memory was struggling to return. The chairman noticed. His smile disappeared. Lucas, take the shot. Lucas's finger moved, half an inch, then stopped. 27 years earlier, the Raven Circle's hidden academy, a frightened 11-year-old boy sat alone in a cold room. His name had once been Lucas Carter. But the circle erased that name. You have no family. You have no mother. You have no father. You have no brother. The instructors repeated those words every day, for years. Whenever Lucas asked about Ethan, he was punished. Whenever he cried, he was locked in darkness. Whenever he smiled, someone paid the price. By the age of 18, Lucas had become the circle's deadliest operative, not because he enjoyed killing, because he believed he had never been loved. Present-day Ethan slowly removed the old silver watch from his wrist, the same watch his father had given him. He tossed it gently across the floor. It stopped at Lucas's feet. Lucas frowned. What is this? Ethan answered quietly. Dad's watch. Lucas stared at it. A faint image flashed through his mind. Two little boys, laughing in the snow, a man kneeling beside them. One day, this belongs to both of you. Lucas staggered backward. The memory vanished as quickly as it appeared. The chairman shouted, Ignore it! It's another trick, Jonathan Reed whispered to Frank. It's working. Frank nodded. The conditioning is breaking. Rebecca looked confused. What conditioning? Jonathan answered. The circle never trusted loyalty. They rewrote memories. They used drugs, hypnosis, isolation. They didn't raise Lucas. They manufactured him. The chairman slowly pulled a small remote control from his pocket. Jonathan's face turned pale. No. Ethan looked at him. What is it? Jonathan answered in horror. Lucas has a neural implant. If the chairman activates it, he loses control. Before Ethan could react, beep. The chairman pressed the button. Lucas suddenly screamed. He dropped to one knee. Veins bulged across his neck. His breathing became violent. He grabbed his head with both hands. No. Please. Make it stop. The chairman smiled. Remember who you belong to. Lucas's eyes slowly changed. The warmth disappeared. The confusion vanished. His expression became cold once again. He stood, picked up the rifle. This time, he aimed directly at Ethan. Without warning, Lily walked forward. Everyone shouted at once. Lily. No! She ignored them. She walked until she stood between Ethan and Lucas. The rifle's barrel pointed directly at her tiny chest. Lucas frowned. Move. Lily shook her head. No, I won't. You'll get hurt. She smiled through her tears. My daddy already got hurt because of me. I'm not moving. Lucas stared at the little girl. Something about her voice, her eyes, reminded him of someone, his mother. For a split second, his hands began trembling. The rifle slowly lowered. The chairman roared with anger. Shoot her, Lucas whispered. I can't. The chairman raised his own pistol. If you won't do it, I will. He aimed at Lily. Time seemed to stop. Before anyone could move, bang. A gunshot echoed through the tunnel. The chairman staggered backward. Blood spread across his shoulder. Everyone turned toward the shooter. It wasn't Ethan. It wasn't Rebecca. It wasn't Jonathan. It was Frank. The elderly janitor lowered the smoking pistol. For the first time in the entire story, the gentle old man looked terrifying. His voice echoed through the tunnel. I cleaned up your messes for 30 years. But today, I'm done cleaning. The chairman smiled despite the pain. So, you finally chose a side. Frank answered calmly. No. I chose it the day I promised Ethan's father I would bring his sons home. The chairman's smile faded. He slowly raised his bleeding hand and gave a single command: kill them all. Instantly, more than 50 Raven Circle soldiers opened fire. The tunnel erupted into chaos. Bullets ricocheted off the steel walls. The underground train's engine suddenly roared to life. And just as Ethan grabbed Lily and Rebecca for cover, Lucas made a decision that would change everything. He turned his rifle, not toward Ethan, but toward the Raven Circle soldiers, and pulled the trigger. The first burst of gunfire echoed through the tunnel. Rat, tat, tat. 3 Raven Circle soldiers fell before they even realized what had happened. Silence. The chairman stared at Lucas. His own greatest weapon had just turned against him. Lucas lowered his rifle. For the first time in 27 years, he made his own decision. I won't kill my family. The chairman smiled coldly. You think you have a choice? He pressed another button on the remote. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. Still nothing. His smile disappeared. Jonathan Reed stepped forward, holding a crushed circuit board. Looking for this? The chairman's eyes widened. You? Jonathan nodded. While everyone was watching Lucas, I disabled your control transmitter. Lucas touched the back of his neck. He felt something snap beneath his skin. The implant had burned out. For the first time since childhood, his mind was truly his own. The escape, get on the train, Frank shouted. Rebecca grabbed Lily. Jonathan covered the rear with controlled bursts of fire. Lucas stood beside Ethan. The 2 brothers fought back to back. Neither spoke. They didn't need to, for years. One had been searching for the other. Now, they were protecting each other. The underground train roared forward. Bullets sparked against the steel walls. The chairman watched them disappear into the darkness. Then, he smiled. One of his commanders looked confused. They escaped. The chairman calmly replied, Exactly. They're going where I need them to go. 30 minutes later, the train emerged beneath an abandoned estate outside Denver. Moonlight illuminated the old Carter mansion, the place Ethan had sworn never to return, the place where his father had died. Lily looked at the broken house. Did you live here? Ethan nodded. A long time ago. Lucas stepped onto the porch. He stopped. A faint memory surfaced. 2 little boys racing through the hallway, their mother laughing, a dog barking. He whispered, I remember. Ethan looked at him hopefully. What? Lucas smiled sadly. Home. The hidden basement. Frank pushed aside an old grandfather clock. Behind it, a staircase descended underground. Rebecca laughed softly. Does every Carter house have secret rooms? Frank smiled. Only the important ones. The basement was untouched. Dust-covered old furniture. Family portraits lined the walls. In the center stood a large wooden table. On it was a chessboard. The pieces were frozen in the middle of a game. Ethan frowned. My father never finished a game. Frank walked over. He didn't. He left it for you. Rebecca looked confused. A chess game? Frank moved the white king 1 square forward. Click. The table split in half. Hidden beneath it was a steel case. Inside, there was no money, no weapons, only one sealed envelope. Across the front in Ethan's father's handwriting were the words, For my sons. Ethan and Lucas opened it together. Inside was a single letter. My sons, if you are reading this together, then you have already defeated the Circle's greatest weapon. Not their money, not their influence. Their ability to turn family against family. The day you stand together, they begin to lose. Lucas quietly wiped away a tear. He had never cried in front of anyone, not once, until now. The final name. Rebecca continued searching the basement. Inside an old filing cabinet, she discovered a birth certificate. Then another. She compared them. Her face turned pale. "Ethan, you need to see this." Ethan walked over. His own birth certificate listed his father as Michael Carter. Lucas's certificate listed exactly the same parents. But something else had been added. A handwritten note. Protected witness, Project Phoenix. Jonathan's expression changed instantly. "No." Rebecca looked at him. "What is Project Phoenix?" Jonathan slowly sat down. "I thought it was just a rumor," Frank whispered. "It wasn't." Jonathan looked at Ethan. Project Phoenix wasn't created to protect children. It was created to replace world leaders. The room fell silent. Lucas frowned. "What does that mean?" Jonathan answered quietly. "It means someone has been creating perfect doubles for powerful people. For decades." Ethan suddenly remembered something. The fake soldiers, the fake FBI agents, the man who looked exactly like him before Lucas appeared. Everything started making sense. Rebecca whispered, "The Raven Circle doesn't just control power. They can replace it." At that exact moment, the television in the basement turned on by itself. Static filled the screen. Then, breaking news. The anchor looked terrified. "We interrupt this broadcast with shocking developments." Behind her, live footage showed the White House. Military vehicles surrounded the building. Helicopters filled the sky. The anchor continued. "Unconfirmed reports suggest the President of the United States has disappeared." The screen suddenly cut to black. A familiar voice echoed through the speakers. The chairman. "Good evening, Ethan. You've spent your entire life trying to save your family. But tonight, you'll have to choose. Save your daughter, or save your country." The transmission ended. A new countdown appeared on the screen. 3:59, 24 hours. The final game had begun. End of Act 2. The final act begins next.